Trouble with the Wildlings.
That's why they're called Wildlings.
The Wildlings represent the importance of perspective in the Game of Thrones world. Through their story, we see that there's no such thing as an objective historical narrative, and that we need to understand multiple points of view to face the challenges that threaten our society. From the beginning, we're inundated with negative rumors and stereotypes that frame our thinking about the people who live north of the Wall.
All wildlings are liars and savages with no loyalty to anything or anyone.
Even the name Wildling is a derogatory term used by those south of the Wall. The Wildlings call themselves the Free Folk.
What waits beyond the pass?
The Free Folk?
Wildling makes us think of a wild creature, a wild thing. So the implication is that these people are seen as less than human. Samwell Tarly's father, Randall, actually refers to Gilly as an it.
This you getting back at me, boy? Bringing that to my table and making me dine with it!
When we first meet Free Folk characters in Season 1, they're living up to the negative stereotypes, attacking young, disabled Bran Stark in the woods. But over time, the show opens our eyes to a bigger picture. We realize that what seems like brutal behavior is really just the will to survive in their very harsh environment.
We're not here to conquer. We're here to hide behind your wall. Just like you.
Living beyond the Wall, the Free Folk are more vulnerable to the White Walkers than anyone. They've been facing this problem, while the skeptical Westerosi have the luxury of denying the real and present danger.
The things you speak of, they've been gone for thousands of years.
They wasn't gone, old man. They were sleeping.
And these people are the victims of history. They've been subjugated for generations.
They're not your lands. We've been here the whole time. You lot came along and just put up a big wall and said it was yours.
Jon Snow embodies the journey of discovery that we go on as viewers, getting to know the Free Folk.
The Free Folk would have boiled him alive, but letting me kill him.
The Free Folk? Listen to him. He even talks like a wildling now.
He might buy into the negative talk about the Wildlings in the beginning, but after first-hand experience, he changes his mind and becomes their advocate.
I was this man's prisoner once. He could have tortured me, he could have killed me. But he spared my life.
So this reminds us that we need to take it upon ourselves to get the full story of what's happening in our world, instead of just trusting the popular narrative.
I talk like a wildling. I ate with the wildlings. I climbed the wall with the wildlings.
In Season 7, Jon sends Free Folk to man the wall, and many of them are there when the White Walkers breach it. They're on the front lines of the war now, set to play a crucial role in the battle to come.
The White Walkers don't care. If a man's Free Folk or Crow, we're all the same to them, meat for their army. But together, we can beat them.
So let's take a look at what these strong, fiercely proud people teach us about the dangers of clinging to a narrow point of view, and what it really means to be free. Before we go on, we want to talk about this video's sponsor. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can learn everything from video editing to business strategy, coding, or lucid dreaming. They offer 25,000 online classes from famous teachers at the top of their field. And right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers 2 months access to all their classes for free. So click the link in the description below to sign up now. The Free Folk's value system is right there in their name. They believe in freedom above all.
And what do you want then? Other than your miserable life?
What all free people want. My freedom.
So what does it mean to be free in this group's eyes? To begin with, it's not living behind a wall.
But it seems to me, as much as the wall keeps us out, it keeps you Southerners in. You follow laws you didn't make.
The Free Folk view themselves as liberated, unencumbered by the laws and restrictions of the Seven Kingdoms. They won't blindly follow a king based on his blood, or because they're told they have to. In the first few seasons, they're led by Mance Rayder, but they selected him.
We don't go serving some shit king who's only king because his father was.
No, you serve Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall.
We chose Mance Rayder to lead us.
And in contrast to the monarchs of the Seven Kingdoms, Mance is a leader with integrity.
A life's work uniting them. He didn't do it for power. He didn't do it for glory. You brought them together to save them, because none of them has survived the winter, not if they're north of the wall.
While the Westerosi are obsessed with bending the knee,
Bend the knee, my lord.
You should kneel before your brother.
So I assume, my lord, you're here to bend the knee.
it's central to the Free Folk philosophy that they won't kneel for anyone.
Stand, boy. We don't kneel for anyone beyond the wall.
They even call those south of the wall kneelers. This refusal to kneel symbolizes that even if they might decide to support a leader, they will never give up their autonomy as free individuals. In Season 5, Mance will not kneel to Stannis Baratheon, even though he'll be burned at the stake if he doesn't.
I don't want people to remember me like that, scorched and screaming. But it's better than betraying everything I believe.
So this underlines what a deeply proud people the Free Folk are. They'll die for their principles. And Mance's end illustrates that the freedom they value so dearly is a freedom of the mind and soul.
I think you're making a terrible mistake.
The freedom to make my own mistakes was all I ever wanted.
Mance is a kind of mirror of Jon. He too started as a man of the Night's Watch and then joined the Free Folk. The key difference between them is that Mance is a member of the Free Folk by blood.
I've got Wildling blood in my veins. These are my people.
Still, like Mance, Jon is changed by his experience north of the Wall. He comes back frustrated by the narrow-mindedness he sees in the Watch.
He's united the Thens, the Hornfoots, the Ice River clans. He has giants fighting for him.
Giants?
Have you ever been beyond the wall, sir?
And as the Night King is revealed to be the true threat facing all of mankind, Jon's appreciation for the Free Folk's point of view is a crucial part of the larger perspective he needs to become a worthy king in the North. The Free Folk's reluctance to serve doesn't mean they aren't loyal.
We say we'll do something, we do it.
Once someone earns their respect, they commit wholeheartedly to that person, as we see in Tormund's fierce loyalty to Jon in later seasons.
He died for us. If we are not willing to do the same for him, we're cowards. And if that's what we are, we deserve to be the last of the Free Folk.
The Free Folk also live free of the social codes and etiquette that dominate life in the Seven Kingdoms. Jon's love, Ygritte, may be ignorant about Westeros.
Is that a palace?
It's a windmill.
And on some level, this makes her seem naive.
Oh, I'm Jon Snow and I'm from Winterfell. My daddy was a fancy lord and I lived in a tower that touched the clouds.
If you were impressed by a windmill, you'd be swooning if you saw the Great Keep at Winterfell.
But her logic also draws our attention to the sillier aspects of Westeros society.
Is that how you lot do your fighting? You march down the road banging drums and waving banners?
Most of the time, yes.
Hearing outsiders break down these customs reminds us that many of the social norms we're witnessing are pretty arbitrary.
In civilized lands, you refer to your betters by their proper titles.
And what's that?
Lord.
Why?
Why? What do you mean, why?
Just as many of our cultural mores probably don't make a lot of sense on closer examination.
This is Stannis Baratheon, the one true king of the Seven Kingdoms.
We're not in the Seven Kingdoms, and you're not dressed for this weather.
Ygritte is such an exciting partner for Jon because she lives free of the social expectations he takes for granted.
Why would a girl see blood and collapse?
Well, not all girls are like you.
This woman is a fighter. She's nothing like the fearful, feminine women Jon knew in the Seven Kingdoms.
I'd like to see you in a silk dress.
Would you?
So I could tear it off you.
And in this relationship, the traditional gender roles are reversed. He's the pretty boy.
You like his pretty hair and his pretty eyes.
And she's the strong one.
I'm your woman now, Jon Snow. You're going to be loyal to your woman.
Whereas women fighting is an exception to the rule in most of Westeros.
Looks like your woman's getting the better of you. If you can call that a woman.
The Free Folk culture doesn't discourage women from joining in battle.
You're a lucky man.
All his life, the restrictive social codes of Westeros have reminded Jon of his status.
Lady Stark thought it might insult the royal family to see the bastard in their midst.
So this woman represents liberation for Jon.
You think you're better than me, Crow? I'm a free woman.
She makes him question those restrictive expectations that haven't served him well.
We can't make steel as good as yours, it's true, but we're free. Someone tried to tell us we couldn't lie down as man and woman. We'd shove a spear up his ass.
And their relationship helps him grow to see a bigger picture. Beyond any set of accepted rules, he starts to process the greater world through his own eyes and trust his own understanding.
Love is the death of duty. I told that to your friend Jon Snow once.
While he remains loyal to his people and to the central mission of the Night's Watch,
I have to go home now.
the way he develops in his brief time with Ygritte shapes him forever. It gives him the courage to stay true to his own sense of purpose as time goes on. In a similar way, Gilly is a great match for Sam.
He's a greater warrior than either of you will ever be.
These two strong, free folk women make their partners better by being so unconcerned with superficial ideas of class or masculinity.
Oh, girls see more blood than boys.
The free folk are also a very diverse group.
They speak 7 different languages in my army. The Fens hate the Hornfoots. The Hornfoots hate the Ice River clans. Everyone hates the cave people.
We could imagine this cultural diversity being an advantage if they were better organized. Instead, their differences create division and discord, stopping them from harnessing their full strength as a people. So we see that there's a downside to the free folk putting such a premium on freedom, as they're too often engulfed in chaos and disorganization. The free folk are fiercer, stronger, and more impressive than the people south of the Wall in many ways. When we see them attack, it's clear that they are truly fearsome warriors. On a one-to-one basis, they can outfight almost anyone south of the Wall.
And even if every one of us kills 100 wildlings, there's still not a thing we can do to stop them.
I don't think I can kill 100 wildlings.
Yet they lose time and time again to these southerners.
6 times you've invaded, and 6 times you failed.
To a large extent, this failure comes from being unlucky enough to be on the wrong side of the wall when it was built.
They were born on the wrong side of the wall. Doesn't make them monsters.
A long time ago, they say, some old southern king enslaved our giants by magic and forced them to build your famous wall. Then he kicked all of my kind to the other side and raised an army to keep us there. And we're the uncivilized ones.
So the free folk parallel Native Americans and other indigenous peoples who were wiped out, or nearly wiped out, by invaders with superior technology and weapons. The free folk believe the earth was made for everyone.
Our gods are of the forest, in the trees that shelter us and the rivers that feed us. They gave the land for all of us to share.
That's why they don't have property rights or very many laws. But the flip side of this is that they've been taken advantage of by those who do believe in dominating land. There's a tragedy to this group. They are fighting for land that they had generations ago and probably will never get back.
Maybe one day I'll take you to Winterfell.
Oh, maybe one day I'll take you there, after we've taken our land back.
In Season 3, Ygritte is surprised that Jon knows the history of the free folk attacking the Seven Kingdoms.
And how do you know that?
Every boy in the north knows it. We grow up learning it. Where the battles were fought, the names of the heroes, who died where.
This reminds us that history is written by the victors. No doubt the authorities of the Seven Kingdoms are teaching their kids a one-dimensional, highly prejudiced account.
I can assure you that the closest Meisterfall ever got to a wildling was this very library.
Which leaves out the free folks' side of the story.
Imagine the stories wildlings tell about us.
At the same time, this moment between the lovers underscores that the free folk don't teach their children history. And we can see that this lack of an organized education is a disadvantage. The more highborn a member of Westeros society is, the better they know their history.
It wasn't just Aegon riding his dragon. It was Rhaenys and Visenya too.
Correct. Student of history, are you?
This knowledge is not just a status symbol, it's also an opportunity for a level of insight that's not available to those who are looking at the world blind without the benefit of learning from humankind's past. And indeed, the Free Folk's strengths as individual fighters are wiped out by their strategic weaknesses.
Killing crows in their castle is tough. Killing them out in the open, that's what we do.
As Jon reminds Ygritte, even if a lot of Westerosi customs seem dumb, they've allowed the Seven Kingdoms to repeatedly dominate the Free Folk.
You don't have the discipline. You don't have the training. Your army is no army. You don't know how to fight together.
You don't know that.
I do.
Lack of education or an advanced justice system leaves the weak vulnerable to exploitation by those who are stronger. Just look at how Free Folk patriarch Craster marries and impregnates his own daughters.
He marries his daughters, and they give him more daughters. And on it goes.
Because Craster's family lives off the grid, these young women have no protection from this man who abuses them and gives their baby sons to the White Walkers.
Give for the gods. Give for the gods.
Give for the gods.
After Gilly escapes from Craster's Keep in Season 3, her relationship with Sam is satisfying to her because she was raised to be ignorant.
Our father used to tell us that no wildling ever looked upon the wall and lived.
And he opens her up to a world of knowledge.
You know all that from staring at marks on paper.
Stannis' daughter Shireen teaches Gilly to read, and we see how her newfound literacy pays off when, in Season 7, she's the one who reads about Rhaegar Targaryen's secret wedding.
Maynard says here that he issued an annulment for Prince Rhaegar and remarried him to someone else at the same time in a secret ceremony in Dorne.
The bias against wildlings is so deeply ingrained in the Westerosi that it really has very little to do with direct contact with the Free Folk. It's about hating the idea or the myth of the wildlings.
My father doesn't like wildlings. He hoped I'd make a man of myself by killing some bloody wildling, so it's probably a good subject to avoid, if at all possible.
When we see a member of the Free Folk spend time with the Westerosi, genuine bonds develop.
Keep this one safe. He means the world to me.
And it's clear there's no real fundamental difference between these peoples.
I have the blood of the first men. My ancestors lived here, same as yours.
So why are you fighting us?
And they even worship the same gods.
You hear them, boy? The old gods are answering you.
What are you doing here?
They're my gods too.
The animosity between the Free Folk and the Watch might remind us of other deeply entrenched generational conflicts powered by hatred. The history of bad blood is just so long. It's almost impossible to imagine these people overcoming it.
They burnt my village. They put an arrow through my father's head right in front of me. They butchered my mother. Everyone I ever knew.
But all that changes when the threat of the Long Night provides a very urgent need to unify.
The Free Folk can't stop them, the Night's Watch can't stop them, and all the Southern Kings can't stop them. Only together. All of us.
This tells us that perhaps the only way to transcend histories of hate is through uniting for a greater cause, or against a common enemy. And in fact, like the highborn Westerosi, we can get an extra insight into this picture by looking far back enough in the history books. There's actually a precedent for the Free Folk and the Starks uniting before. Legend has it that a Lord Commander of the Night's Watch married a White Walker woman and made himself the Night's King. Not to be confused with the Night King of this present story. For years, the couple ruled over the men of the Night's Watch at Castle Black, until Joramun, the first king beyond the wall, banded together with the Starks to eliminate them. And this history may foreshadow that the Starks and the Free Folk teaming up again will be crucial in the fight against this Night King. After all, there is a definite sense that history repeats itself in the Game of Thrones world, which is why it's so necessary to know the history in the first place. We need a greater perspective to understand how the different pieces of the puzzle fit together.
All I've learned is that the children of the forest used to hunt with dragonglass.
Keep reading, Samuel Tarly.
History also tells us that a mysterious object called the Horn of Winter, or the Horn of Joramun, could come into play in the events ahead. The horn is believed to have the power to bring down the wall, which isn't so relevant now, but it may have more significance than we yet know. On the show, we see Sam find a horn along with Dragonglass in Season 2, but so far there's no indication that this is the Horn of Winter. We all remember Ygritte's frequent refrain to Jon.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
But this line isn't just about him. It also has a bigger cultural symbolism. It signifies that the Westerosi don't have the full story, and life beyond the wall is full of not just more danger, but also more magic than the Seven Kingdoms can imagine. If you look at them with unbiased eyes, the Free Folk are admirable survivors. And there is even a positive spin to the Wildling name.
It's not a very nice word, I suppose.
I don't know. Makes me sound a bit dangerous, doesn't it?
Being a little wild can be a great thing. Through the Free Folk, we see that how a story is told matters.
Old Nan said they turn your skull into a cup and make you drink your own blood from it. That's what Old Nan said.
Biased storytelling has made those on either side of a wall needlessly hate each other, giving us a cautionary tale about the danger of division.
You need to stay away from that girl.
Why?
She's a wildling.
If we spend our time hating someone we'd actually like if we'd got to know them personally, that's a huge waste of energy and resources, considering we may have real enemies out there who threaten our very existence.
We can learn to live with the Wildlings, or we can add them to the army of the dead.
So, like Jon Snow, we must be willing to travel, to look back at our own culture with the benefit of a broader perspective, and to be open to admitting that we did know nothing once.
You trust me, Jon Snow?
Does that make me a fool?
We're fools together now.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare, an online learning community we love, with over 25,000 classes taught by seasoned pros. Skillshare has a class on pretty much anything you could want. You can develop your creativity through a class on calligraphy, graphic design, or writing. You can learn to succeed in business with classes on how to make it as a freelancer, market a podcast, or become an Instagram influencer. You can use it to master new technology through classes on web design, coding, and data science. Or you can bring that extra flair into your lifestyle, sharpen your knife skills, learn paper making, speak Spanish, or let Olympia Zanioli, a famed illustrator whose clients include The New Yorker and The Guardian, teach you how to create a stunning graphic illustration. Right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers 2 months access to all their classes for free, but that's only if you're one of the first 500 people to click the link in the description below. You don't want to miss this deal, so check it out today.